Hey, friends and family, I have another word of encouragement for you. I am going to talk to you just for a few minutes from the subject of loving your neighbor. Jesus tells us in Mark chapter 12, verses 30 through 31. He says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first and great commandment. And the second like it is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." Think about that. Jesus said there's absolutely no other commandment in the Word of God greater than these two. Now, what was Jesus doing? Jesus summed up all the commandments, the 10 commandments, in the word love. That's right. All of the commandments can be summed up in one word, and that one word is love. The first 4 of the 10 commandments deals with one's relationship to God. And the last 6 deals with one's relationship to others. Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17 talks about that. The 2 greatest commandments really is the commandment. It is the commandment of love, expressed towards God and expressed towards one another. My primary focus in this teaching is not so much to focus on the first commandment, but the second commandment, which is the commandment to love one another. As many of you know, our nation is more divided than it's ever been before. I have never seen so much hatred and division in my life as I'm seeing right now. Unfortunately, there are those who call themselves Christians who are some of the biggest contributors to the division. As Christians, God calls you and I to a higher level of living, which is the walk of love. I believe when the church begins to walk in love towards one another, it will bring healing to our nation. Joyce Myers made a statement years ago, and she says, when the love of God that's in us begins to flow out of us, it heals everything in between. Isn't that amazing? Romans chapter 13, verses 8 through 10, the Apostle Paul tells us in so many words, when the love of God governs your life, you will not inflict harm on others. In other words, love always wins. Love always wins. And I want you to decide today, no matter what people do to you, no matter what people say to you, to walk in love. I believe that the church is the answer for the division that's in our world today. The church is the answer. Jesus said in John 13, 34 and 35, he tells us to love one another. But let me actually read it to you, because I want you to see what Jesus did was he actually took the commandment of love to a higher level. Jesus tells us in John 13, 34 and 35, he says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another." So notice what Jesus did. He took the commandment that we just read about earlier, and he basically kicked it up another notch. He says, I want you to not just love one another as you love yourself, but I want you to love one another just as I have loved you, with the same love that I have for you. Verse 35 is the key verse I want to focus on here. "By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." How is the world going to know that we're disciples of Christ? By the love that we have for one another. I believe the church needs to rise up and begin to love one another, and then begin to love our world through everything that's going on. We have the answer. We are the bride of Christ. God has put us here to be salt and light, and I believe we can see things dramatically turn around in our nation and the nations of the world if we will embrace this commandment to walk in love. Well, friends and family, until next time, keep living that Sozo life.
Jesus, we love you. Jesus, we